8:47, it's Indiana in the morning, and it's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. He is State Representative Jim Struzzi joining us this morning in the studio. Our conversation presented by Marcus and Mack, voted Best Law Firm and Best Personal Injury Lawyer 3 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online at marcusandmack.com. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Todd. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm glad that you're here with us today because we've got some things to talk about. This time of the year, of course, is when you're not in session in Harrisburg, which gives you the chance to come back home here in Indiana County and really get an idea of what's on the minds of the folks around here. And I know that, you know, events like the Indiana County Fair, very important.
Yes.
The other fairs, you go to other fairs and town events and things like that, and you get some pretty serious work done, even in that fun atmosphere.
Well, I think it's so very important that we understand what's happening in our communities, what's on people's minds. We had the Chamber's Eggs and Issues breakfast last week that I thought was very good at understanding what people are thinking about, what their questions are, what their concerns are, and how we can address those through the state legislature. Obviously, we had a lot of discussions about the state budget during the Eggs and Issues event last week, and that was the same time that the Indiana County Fair was going on, as you mentioned. I had a booth there all week. I wanted to be there more than I could, but my schedule, we had a lot of policy hearings and some transportation hearings. As you know, we had one here a couple of weeks ago, and that's sort of a traveling road show, if you will, around the state to look at transportation funding needs. But the fair was great as usual, being able to go out and talk to people, support our youth in the agricultural fields. This weekend is the Hoodlebug Fest. We'll be at that as well. The Northern Appalachian Folk Fest is this weekend, and I'll be volunteering to help with my wife Chrissy through the United Way on Friday night, so I'll be at that as well. The Ox Hill Fair is this week as well, so there's just a lot of great opportunities out there to interact with the community. And to me, that's really what it's all about, because I can't represent people well in Harrisburg if I don't know what the people in my district are looking at, what they're facing as challenges and concerns, and how we can work to improve their lives.
So Eggs and Issues, and I'm sure many other events, people are asking you about budgeting and all of those very important issues. I think at the top of everybody's minds, though, right now here in Indiana County is what in the world is going on with that power plant. And I know that you run in your lanes and others, officials will run in their lanes, and eventually those lanes have to merge, and you get the opportunity to be partners with some different organizations. Legislatively, are there any hurdles or obstacles that you've been asked to clear for the power plant?
Well, I think it's important that we all work together. Obviously, we're very optimistic that whatever happens with that site is going to be good for Center Township, be good for Indiana County, be good for Pennsylvania. And I think that's the direction we're moving in. We are working with the owners of the company, and it's important, again, to know that that's a private company. So, they're doing what they are doing on their own. We are supportive, but again, until they're ready to release the information about what their plans are, we really can't say too much. But I am encouraged, as I think Byron Stauffer said during the interview yesterday from the Center Township meeting, that they're going to do the right things for the community. They're going to do the right things for Indiana County. And from what we've heard, it's going to be a really good investment in Indiana County. But we can't say much more than that until everything is in place.
The news came out last week about the endangered status of the grid, the PJM grid.
Absolutely.
That Pennsylvania is involved in. We supply power. We're basically the Eastern Seaboard's power plant, and Indiana County as a whole. It's extremely important. If the grid is endangered as much as the folks involved with the industry are saying, there's a real problem if one plant goes down. And so the resource that is the Homer City Station, the Shalakta Station, the Seward power plants, those are so very, very important to our future, not just here in Indiana County, but all around the western half of the state and the eastern United States.
Absolutely, Todd. Energy is essential to our lives. It heats our homes, it fuels our vehicles, it makes our manufacturing, it gets our products to services. It is core to everything we do in our society. And if we don't have that base load available, which is what the fossil fuel industry brings, the coal, natural gas, you don't have that to rely on in those days when the windmills aren't working and when the sun isn't shining. And that's what we're seeing happen right now. And, we warned people for 4 or 5 years now, myself, Senator Pittman, and many of us in the General Assembly, that the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, and other federal environmental policies that are restricting energy production are going to be bad. You're going to see rolling blackouts if things don't change here in Pennsylvania because these baseload supplies are going away, and we simply cannot allow that to happen. I'm not saying we can't have solar and wind and other renewables, but we need that reliable baseload energy. And with the announcement that the PJM is really concerned with this, the fact that energy prices could go up by 700% or something along those lines, I mean, that's going to be detrimental to our families and our businesses here in Pennsylvania, and we can reverse that trend. We need to look at our energy policy differently than our environmental policy. They can coexist, but we need to start putting energy production first.
Governor Shapiro's proposals for energy aren't all that different from Governor Wolf's work.
They're not.
That being the case, is his administration any easier or more difficult to work with?
Well, first of all, I think the governor's proposals are actually worse than the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative because the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, or RGGI, put us in with 13 other states as far as the cap and trade program. What Governor Shapiro is proposing is Pennsylvania stands alone on that. So we create our own cap and trade program, which I think would put us at even more disadvantage when it comes to competitiveness with these other states, particularly Ohio and West Virginia. Is the administration easier to work with? I think that it's a well-known fact that the governor has higher ambitions, so I think a lot of the things he puts out there are based on those ambitions. Not necessarily grounded in reality, not necessarily grounded in what's good for Pennsylvania, but grounded in something that looks at his potential for higher office. And I don't think that's the way you should be governing. Now, I do think there are a lot of good things in this budget, as we've discussed, but the energy policy has to change. That's why I proposed, and some of my colleagues have proposed, an energy package that would create an independent energy office to look at our energy policy and the impacts that any type of environmental policy has on business and economic growth, on our families, on our communities, be assessed before we move forward with those policies.
The legislative session in the fall is always a brief one.
Yes.
It's abbreviated by the calendar and this year by the election. You'll be back in Harrisburg when and for how long?
Now we're back on September 30th. We were initially scheduled to be returning to session on September 23rd, but now it's September 30th. We are in through the first week in November, 12 voting days, and then that will be it for the year because of the election coming up in November. And so it's really difficult to say what we're going to get done in those 12 remaining days. A lot of what we're doing right now is basically gearing up for the next session, laying the groundwork legislatively for what we want to see happen in Pennsylvania, hopefully moving us in a better direction than we are now. I think we can make changes. I think we can implement legislative policy that helps Pennsylvania grow and continue to move in the right direction.
Is there legislation teed up on which you can vote in those 12 voting days?
There certainly is. Yeah, we'll see the calendar here shortly. Hopefully, this schedule can continue, and we do return on the 30th. Because I said we were scheduled on the 23rd, but that got canceled. So I'm hopeful that we can still get a lot of good work done. I know that I have many bills and resolutions out there that I would love to see cross the finish line here this fall. Some of them have already been voted out of committee and are waiting for floor votes. So it's definitely possible to get some good things done. I just hope that we can do that.
Yeah. The question being, is there time to get something through you, the Senate, the House,
Yes.
and then through the Senate, and then to the governor's desk in time?
And I think to be honest, it's a heavy lift. The budget was very difficult. We got a lot of good things done in the budget. A lot of things yet remain to get done. With this being an election year, I don't know what we're going to see. Again, the House Democrats run the calendar, they run the floor, so they control what we vote on in Harrisburg. And for now, it's controlled by the House Democrats, the Speaker, and the Majority Leader. They run the calendar. So I'm hopeful, though, I have good working relationships with most of my colleagues in Harrisburg that some of my bills can move and some of the bills that we have out there that will be good for Pennsylvania can move as well.
Early voting begins in Pennsylvania September the 16th.
Mm-hmm.
This is another week.
Yes.
And we've still got things to decide, and it looks like the courts are going to have to weigh in on it.
Yes.
And the appeal made by the GOP to the recent court ruling.
Right.
We get everything done in time for the election?
Well, I think we have to. Obviously, it's coming right up, and as you said, early voting's happening already. This election is fast upon us, and I know there's a lot of ads and a lot of rhetoric out there, but the bottom line is I hope people look seriously at this election at all levels and take their vote seriously and make sure that regardless of how you feel related to voter integrity and all that kind of stuff, we're going to sort through that, hopefully get to a place where people are confident again in our election processes. And I believe they should be here in Indiana County, absolutely. But again, if you don't vote, it doesn't matter. So the bottom line for me is people still need to vote, whether it's by mail or in person.
It's interesting to me. September 16th is when early voting starts. And once you file that baby, if you do it in September, your vote is cast. You're not changing that thing.
Yeah, and I think people need to maybe not rush into things. Let this play out a little bit more. Let some of the debates happen. Hear from both sides a little more thoroughly. Understand what their actual policy positions are, not just what you see in TV ads and things like that. Hear from the candidates themselves. Look at their records. Do your own research. Don't buy into the rhetoric that's on the TV every 2 seconds these days. And make sure you're factually basing your vote on their records, their policies, and what their plan is for the future.
Yeah. Good advice. All right. Thanks so much for the visit today.
Absolutely, Todd. Just remind people, repstruzzi.com to learn more about what we're doing and stay tuned.
He is State Representative Jim Struzzi, and it is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com.